You're too old, and it's too late to start. Has anyone ever said that to you? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's too late to quit. And oh yeah, you're not too old. In fact, the good news is that it's always the right time to start. You've come to the right place. Me and my friends are going to share our stories of why we will never, ever throw in the towel. Welcome to the Too Late to Quit podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Ridin. Let's go.
I've been searching for what I'm quite not sure, just riding on the wind, chasing on a dream. Traveling on through the night, till the break of light. Let's trip the lights, fantastic, you and me. Sugar-coated sunlight bursts through purple skies. Waterfall of light rolls back to dew. An essence iridescent rises to the skies. You and I will be flying high, riding on a wind, riding on a wind, searching for a dream and riding on a wind. Fly on, fly, bird, fly, high across the dawn. Eagle flying, a new day born. Sing on, sing, bird, sing, spread untethered wings. Song so sweet, a melody that's true. Sugar-coated sunlight bursts through purple skies, and waterfall of light rolls back to dew. An essence iridescent rises to the skies. You and I will be flying high, riding on a wind, riding on a wind, searching for a dream, riding on a wind, riding on a wind, riding on a wind, searching for a dream, riding on a wind.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the Too Late to Quit podcast, Mr. Jack Pinto. Jack, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jeff. Glad to be here.
So what you all just heard, can you please tell us the name of that song, Jack?
It's called Riding on the Wind.
So I have a couple questions about Riding on the Wind. It just blew me away to hear that live. Can you tell us all what the tuning is for that song? And also you have a very interesting double capo setup there. So I'd love it if you could describe to the listeners this whole setup, because I want them to just get if you just describe the whole guitar,
Okay.
that would be great.
All right. So the guitar is a Gibson J-200. I got that as a retirement gift for myself in 2020. So, it's it's got the burnt colors, and it's got that amazing guitar pick with the flowers on it and everything. So, but more so for the tune. So I haven't put my other guitars. I haven't picked them up since I had this guitar for the most part. But anyway, as far as the tuning, it's a shortcut capo that you can put on. So in theory, if you stick the shortcut capo on the second fret, that would be in dadgad tuning. So it's got the middle three that will tune. So, but if you put it on the second fret, it's really not dadgad. It's like egad. It's
Okay.
actually like an E sus2 would be it. But then you can slide the shortcut capo up or down the neck, primarily in this case up the neck, but put a full capo, a full, two frets back. So that allows you for a movable tuning. So I have this one with the shortcut capo on the fourth fret and the regular capo on the second, which really gives it like a G sus4 dadgad sound. No, I take that back. It's a G flat sus2.
Okay. So just for a little bit of background, so the first time I met you was at the New World Deli in Austin, Texas. And while you were playing, I said to my wife, I said, check out that Gibson guitar. I thought it's a stunning guitar. Um, and I remember you got up and played, and I was so curious about as far as your influences, and now to hear it here, right up close and in person, with the cans on, that I have so many questions as far as about your influences. But before we dive into the whole interview, can you tell me the background on that song?
The song itself,
Yeah,
okay.
how you came to write that song?
Yeah, that's always interesting how these things come to you. Um, so I'm always looking for a different sound in a guitar. I kind of, if you play the same chords over and over, to me anyway, on a personal note, it gets a little boring. So I was always looking to be inspired to try new different things. So I got the cut capo just because I had heard about it and I took one on, and then I got into that dadgad and just learning some basic um, finger positions for some of the chords, and so that kind of I got the vibe on that, just hammering and sliding up, but having that different tuning, and and it just kind of rolls. Um, I'm always thinking about the melody and the rhythm and the vibe before I think of words. So I don't know if you want to get into this, but for that particular song, I just try to think of some kind of a you know almost like a spiritual plane with the way the song bounced and lyric instrumentally for me. So I felt like we were riding on the wind, or just kind of moving into a different dimension type of thing. And then I try to put a positive spin to it, and then it just morphed into what it was. You know how that goes. It's just a process, and it just goes one way and it comes out the other.
I feel that the way you're describing that is it's that to me it sounds sonically so complex, and there was so much thought behind it. It kind of like it feels like a magician saying, "Oh, well, you just go like this and that, and boom, and that happens."
Yeah, not like that.
There is something very it almost felt to me like a little bit of time travel with that song, and I'm curious. I wrote down, I have two guesses as far as for who your possible influences might be. The What I wrote down, the first one was Colin Hay.
I know of him, not
Uh-huh.
as a pop star in the
Uh-huh.
'80s. Wasn't an influence, but I like his music.
Okay. And the other was Zeppelin.
Uh, Likewise, I always
Uh-huh.
listen to Zeppelin,
Uh-huh.
but you know, certainly I like the aspect of the different sounds that they bring out. But kind of 0 for 2 on your end. But I don't know what it's kind of hard. But that's interesting that you would pick those two because they're when Men at Work came out, it was such a unique sound, right? Land Down Under has that reggae vibe, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
got the different flutes and so on. And Zepp is being Zepp,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
especially with Jimmy Page's acoustic stuff, like on Zeppelin 3 and stuff. That was certainly something that I listened to over the years when I was younger, and just said, "Oh, that's a great sound," like Brian Young Surf or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I saw Colin Hay on a solo tour back in like around 2001. It's just him and his acoustic guitar. and there was something about the rollingness to it, and some of his like solo work that it just. I remember I was sitting in this bar, and there were just a couple people, but I felt the same thing that I felt when I was listening to you play. It's like it feels like all of a sudden dusk rolls into the town, and we're kind of all gathered around the campfire or the wherever the fire, and it's like, let me tell you this tale. That's the kind of the vibe that I got from that. It felt like a very it just felt like time travel to me.
Mm-hmm.
There was something very special about the whole vibe. So it makes sense to me that because you said you start with the vibe first.
Yeah. The melody, the vibe,
Uh-huh.
the percussive aspect of the guitar, and how I can make it interesting. And then the lyrics always seem to be the last thing, and but, in that, to your point, I kind of think that you're right on that, spot on. I'm not much of a storyteller writer. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of my songs aren't like that, which is not one way or the other. Just I wanted to create some kind of a dawning of something, thinking of it like, a new day's dawning. Let's roll out the dew. Let's get the lights out, and we have opportunity to do something, metaphorically, spiritually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So kind of a timeless aspect to it, and I think about it. And you may concur as well, possibly, that when you listen to certain songs over the years, sometimes they don't carry, or a movie, they just don't carry over as well. It's time bound.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think what I tend to do more with some of my writing, at least from my perspective, is try to have that timeless aspect to it, or have a vision, or somebody can, put themselves there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was trying to do that in that song, and so I think you kind of nailed that spot on.
That's really interesting. So when I first I've had all these theories, and because I'd love to. I'm so curious about your story, but the idea I had when I saw you play, and then when I talked to you, I had my first theory was that you are like the CEO of like a Fortune 500 company who also happens to be a really good musician, and it was kind of like your way. But you also had this, I think, if I remember, you had like it was like a tie dye T-shirt or something. I was like, but I think he's got this like hippie spirit, but all of his songs are very like very vibey. And so I had this idea, and that's why I've been so curious to talk to you about who you are and what you do, because I want our listeners to really get to know your story. Because the reason, and what you and I were talking about this earlier, the reason why I started this podcast is I wanted people to share their stories at when they started making music and what stage in their life, because I want to encourage people that it's always the right time to start if you want to start creating art. And I was shocked when I asked you a few weeks ago where I could listen to your stuff. And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
correct, you don't have, is it correct that you don't have anything recorded or anything available online?
Pretty much so.
Okay, so just speaking from the heart, off the hip, after hearing that, that to me is shocking, because that is such a beautifully sewn together song. It's such a, I love the structure, I love the vibe. I'm like, if I would, if you told me like, oh, this is off my third album,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh yeah, of course. It would make total sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm gonna kind of bounce around because I want to I want to try to start from the beginning. I'm just curious. Have you ever thought about recording, say, this song or other of your songs?
Yeah. Short answers. I've thought about it, and I know it's something that would be a good idea to do. Um, and one of the first songs I actually wrote that was pretty decent when I was living in New Jersey at the time. I did have it recorded by my friend Wade Allen, who has a studio, and his brother-in-law came in with the drums and all that. But and it was actually a gift from my wife for like Christmas for like, time and money for recording. But I probably should do it. And you're not the first person who's asked me about, I'd love to record it, but in my mind, and I don't want to disparage it, but I think I like the organic aspect of when I play a song live. To me,
Sure.
anyway, it's never the same, or it changes.
Yeah.
And in my experience, when you listen to a song, they're so well done and produced, and taking all the flaws out of it. It's just a snapshot in time. It's not that song. It's a static aspect of that song, but it I think songs grow organically over time too. I mean, I might have that song, and a year from now I'll say, let me just change this up a little bit, or and I do that a lot with what I write. But I should make the effort and time and spend the money and record some songs. I think I would find that very rewarding.
I just, after hearing it here, this close with, with these microphones on it, I think it'd be really cool. And I think there'd be other people who would love to just maybe after a day of work, when they come home, maybe be able to cruise down the highway listening to that song, or to put on some headphones. There's just something. I think if you decide to do that, I would definitely listen. I would be one of the people that would be listening to it.
Well, thank you.
So could you let's start. Could you please tell me, because you and I met in Austin, Texas. Where are you? Where are you originally from?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the great state of New Jersey. Not Jersey, but New Jersey, as many people don't people say there. But yeah, I was born and raised and lived my formative years in central New Jersey, and met my wife in college, and I had taken a job out of school as a young engineer in, I'm going to show my age here, 1979 in Dallas, Texas, worked for TI. And we got married a couple of years after that, and actually be our 44th anniversary come the end of this month on the 22nd.
That's awesome.
Yes, amazing that somebody would do that with me. But anyhow, so yeah, so we lived in Dallas in the 80s, urban cowboy vibe, and all kinds of, stuff. And it was a great, vibrant city, young city. But then we got to be, of age. So we said, let's raise a family. Our family was up in New Jersey, grandparents and such. So, we lived up there till I was about to retire, and I thought we would travel places and see things, and maybe 3 months live here, 3 months live there. And then COVID hit, time basically our retirement. So we were going to stay put for some place, and we had our house on the market and sold it. And our daughter was living in Dallas, was going to go to business school in UT Austin. So we said, hey, why don't we live down there for at least 3 months, 4 months, 6 months? And this is like May of 21.
Okay.
So it's been 4.5 years now that we're living in Austin.
Okay. So what was that like, coming from New Jersey and then going to, so when you were with Texas Instruments, were you based in Dallas proper? Where was TI located?
Yeah,
Where were you?
North Dallas.
North Dallas?
Yeah, we lived in North Dallas and pretty confined there.
What was that like? Was there any culture shock going from New Jersey to northern Dallas?
Well, I think there was a culture shock for Texans when so many people moved there in the 80s when everything was becoming a rust belt, and but everybody I've met has always embraced. A lot of the people that I had friends with when we lived were all young engineers, and they had families, friends from San Diego, friends from Oregon, New York, Buffalo, and such. So we had like a little communal family. But there was, Texans, and there were like non-Texans, but it was boom time there in the early 80s. It was all going on. So it was great. Clubs at night, music. It was just very vibrant. So it was not much of a transition, certainly for me.
Okay. So if you could take me back to New Jersey, where were you born in the state?
I was born in Jersey City, New Jersey,
Okay.
and my parents were, generations coming over from Europe, and I think it was amazed me. People go all the way to Ellis Island, and then they cross the border and say, "I'm going to stay here. I'm not going anywhere else." So yeah, so my parents were from Jersey City, so I lived there till about 10 years old,
Uh-huh.
and then we moved to a little further out in a place called Union County, in a town called Kenilworth, and lived there through my high school years, and then went to school at Rutgers. And so I was out of the house at 18, come back in the summers, have a summer job, go back. And then at 22 is when I moved to Dallas. And so that's how it kind of germinated and evolved.
Okay. Can you share with us what is the what's one of your earliest musical memories where you connected with music?
Oh, well, uh, I remember earliest kind of memories is like listening to like a transistor radio and AM radio stations in New York City, like WABC 770 and stuff like that, which had Cousin Brucey and
Uh-huh.
be all those stuff like Sugar from the Archies and all that kind of
Uh-huh.
poppy stuff. I mean, that's my early years of thinking about music. But I also remember um, around that time, even maybe before, um, we were in a car one time and some older teenager, I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. And it was like, an older teenager, kind of like an Eddie Haskell type in the front. I don't remember who was driving, but cranked it on. It was Donovan's Mellow Yellow. And I just thought that was such a great groove
Uh-huh.
here
Uh-huh.
for me when it starts with the hi-hats and it gets into the percussion and it just flowed. And so songs like that kind of jump out at me when I think about earlier types of music you listen to. Something that's got catches you, you know, makes you, want to listen more, not just, listen to the words, but listen to the beat.
Uh, what year would that have been from listening to Mellow Yellow?
60, 70,
67?
67 maybe,
67?
66, 67, 68. No, not 68, certainly early, 66, 67. But that's one early memory I had. So I was probably 9 years old or something like that,
Okay.
you know.
So I'm starting to connect the dots. When did you is there anybody musical in your family?
Not really. Um,
Uh-huh.
my father played a clarinet back in the day as in a band at high school or something. But
That's
I think
cool.
later in life he got back into it. We bought him one, and he
Uh-huh.
started listening to Moody Blues and following them and stuff. But no, not really. My friend, I have a good friend Gary, who was a guitar player. I had quite a few friends in high school that had guitars, and I'd be the guy in the back who bought a Yamaha guitar for maybe about $60. That was a lot of money at the time, and probably could have used a good setup because the B string always went out of tune. So I'd
Uh-huh.
play half the time, halfway through a song, it'd be out of tune. But I would learn, guitar chord positions and stuff, and do rhythm in the back, and then we tried to do some harmonies and such. So that was kind of my musical entree. It wasn't guitar lessons or piano lessons at home or violin lessons. We had none of that. It was just listening and then trying to, try to present later on.
How old were you when you got this guitar?
High school?
High school.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say so.
What year in high school?
Oh, I would say it's probably like 1972,
Uh-huh.
71.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then just played that. But it was one of those days, like you were a musician, you got to get past those calluses, and you put it to the side for 6 weeks when you first played, and then
Yeah,
you would
sure.
hurt again, you put it to the side. So I never consistently played, but then I got into college. I had brought that guitar with me, and I had that guitar through college till I had a job where I can actually buy something better. Now that I'm on that track, in 1984, I think I was living in Garland, Texas,
Okay.
outside of Dallas, and and I went to the Garland music store and bought a Taylor, it was like about an $800 Taylor guitar. That was one of the early ones in
Wow.
Lemon Grove, California. It's got Robert Taylor's, it's a serial number 28380 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
and that was a real legit guitar. So that kind of made me get more serious into covers and just trying to find something that I liked.
So, if we could walk back, so that first guitar that you got that had that was in need of a setup with the B string.
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of guitar was that?
A Yamaha
It was Yamaha,
acoustic. Yeah,
acoustic Yamaha.
yeah.
Okay.
It was a decent guitar.
And how did you learn the chords? Did you have anybody that was helping you,
Yeah,
or
well, back in those days, I got the Mel Bay books,
okay?
which is like these illustrations of a guy who's got humongous fingers,
Right.
and he's holding his pinky about 3 frets up, and I'm like, that's not happening. So you learn the G and you learn the D,
Yeah.
and then you learn the A minor and a C, and before you know it, or an E minor, and boy, you can play a lot of take it easy songs from the Eagles and such. So that was kind of the process, just get better at moving this to this to this to this without thinking. All cowboy chords.
How I'm curious, how did you tune the guitar? How would you tune it?
That's a great question. It's probably spent more time at it too than it was into. Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Because I mean, well, I tuned it by ear. I mean, the short of it is,
Huh.
but I mean, because when you're back in those days, you
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of the equipment. You didn't have a phone that you can have a tuner on it. You didn't have well, I guess there were, but I didn't have a tuner. So I would just learn to get that, get the top E at a point where it sounded like that's what it was.
Uh-huh.
And then put the finger on the fifth fret and go down and trying to tune that up to the same sound and work your way down and just tune it manually,
Wow.
which I think is actually very helpful
Yeah.
because I see some people who just can't do it without putting it on, and
Uh-huh.
I think you have to have an ear for it sometimes. So I think that helped actually.
That's really interesting, because it makes me think about now I see most cars have backup cameras.
Right.
And I think about what it's like nowadays learning how to parallel park with a backup camera or just even reverse, as opposed to putting your arm over the headrest of the seat next to you, and learn, like, are you able to drive a car that doesn't have a camera? Or how easily can you adjust? And I'm thinking about that, like, that's incredible ear training as far as learning how to. Would you say, do you have perfect pitch?
No, not at all.
Okay. Um,
Close enough pitch.
uh-huh. Close enough pitch to have that to essentially have that muscle memory to get it to where it's tuned to itself essentially, which
Mhm.
is pretty. That's and
Yeah.
so you're what do you think, a junior in high school or junior senior?
Sophomore year
Sophomore year?
maybe. I've got a guitar, and my friend Gary and my other friend Dee back in the time
Uh-huh.
were good musicians, and actually they had a couple of gigs at some bars when it was still 18 to drink, and we'd go out and do some songs, like the Boxer or something, and I'd be playing in the back as the rhythm guy. That
That's
was
really
kind of
cool.
yeah, but that was short lived.
So I'm curious, did you this question just came into my head. Before you got that guitar, had you ever written any poetry or any songs before that?
Nothing. No, I mean, I bought the guitar and the idea of trying to learn to play guitar just because it was cool and you hear a lot of music and, people like guitar players, and, be it as it may. And I was just bent on just learning how to play some chords and get proficient at it and just practicing and learning covers, you know, playing a Charlie Daniels or a Friend of the Devil or something,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and just trying to ape or try to come close to playing something that somebody else wrote, nothing that I ever wrote. So it was all covers.
And then so then you had that guitar all throughout college.
I did.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And did you jam a lot in college, or what was your
Yeah.
experience in, like, with having that guitar while you were in college?
Yeah. One of my roommates, Ray, had a guitar, so we would play together. And yeah, and it's always somebody when you would come over to a party, they would say, "Oh, let me see your guitar," or
Uh-huh.
they bring a guitar, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I think I was more open to playing, and I had the time. You found the time more because you just time just kind of turns elastic in college, just morphs, and you always could pick up a guitar at 11 o'clock or 2 in the afternoon if you're home or whatever. So I think I played a lot more for sure in college. than I ever did in high school.
Hmm. So, were you writing throughout? When did you first start? When did you write your first song?
Good question. I kind of look at it as never too late to start, and certainly never too early to quit. You know,
Uh-huh.
definitely, I'm definitely late to quit.
Uh-huh.
But I was late to start,
Uh-huh.
and 2017, 2018, probably as I was like a 60-year-old man, was probably the very first time I wrote a song. In fact, I remember it because I was sitting. Uh, my son was lives in Canada and his bride, and he was at our house for Christmas time or during that time period. And we're sitting in the sunroom of our old house, and I said, I want to write a song. He says, why don't you write about the sunroom? And I had a little bit of it, Jack Johnson progressions, and
Uh-huh.
made it sound something. And that was the very first entree in saying, maybe I can write a simple song about what the sunroom is like. And so I'm a late bloomer for sure. Um, and I didn't get real serious about writing until much later. That was just kind of the entree, but it got my interest. And as that turned out, around 2018, that time frame, I was always play at home, or I never would go out.
Uh-huh.
But then there was an open mic at this place near me that
Uh-huh.
had a coffee house,
Uh-huh.
Grover's Mill Coffee House, which is in Grover's Mills, New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
Grover's Mills is the place where, if you ever remember the War of the Worlds by Orson Welles,
Yeah.
came on the radio in like 1939.
Yeah.
The Martians landed in Grover's Mills,
All
New
right.
Jersey. So there's a big thing there. So,
Okay.
and they had an open mic, so I went and checked it out. And then I came back the following Thursday and started playing. I made a nice social network over time with some other players as you build a community.
Yeah.
And it was primarily covers. The guy who ran it and hosted it did his own as well, his originals and such, and he was, moving on that direction. So I figured I would try something like that instead of just playing covers all the time.
Hmm.
Just try to pepper in an original and then see how it goes. And so right now, that's kind of what I've been doing. I don't really do too many covers.
So, was the name of that song that your first song this called The Sunroom?
Yes.
Well, so your son essentially gave you a prompt.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, write about this, and bing, bang, boom, you just composed it on the spot
Yeah,
right
we got,
there.
well, the idea, the concepts,
Wow.
and then a couple of days later you find, tweak words and,
Uh-huh.
it's a process, right? It's never done like Neil Young writing Ohio in like 20 minutes or something, and getting it out 5 days later. Um, it takes a little bit longer than that for me, for sure. But I think we got the chord progression and just the vibe. And then I started getting some imagery. Another thing I bought was one of those, was it the Pat Patterson book on
Yeah, 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 sure.
songwriting for song? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And just learn some ideas and concepts and how you try to tie emotion or visualization to your story, and I just became a sponge at a point in time where I just was trying to learn. I still am trying to understand what is it out there that I need to learn theory wise, if it is, or anything else. But that's how it was, and that was the concept. My son came up with that, and then you know, um, probably worked on it a day with him, and I'd run it by him when he was there. But then I kind of
Uh-huh.
put it aside, and I finished it up. But I played that out, and it was got a good reception to people for the first song I ever played out in like maybe 2018. So
Can What was it about the sunroom that inspired you to? I mean, your son made the suggestion, but then that actually you then saw it through and brought it across the finish line. Can you tell me about that
yeah,
sunroom? I'm really curious now.
well, at the time we were living in that home that we raised our children in um, for 20 years, let's say, at that time at
Uh-huh.
least. And the sunroom was off the back of the family room, and we lived with the river in the back in Cranberry, New Jersey, central
Uh-huh.
New Jersey,
Uh-huh.
and the sunroom had all windows all around us, so you felt like you were outside. It was treed, and then you had the ceiling, the had windows in the roof, coming through and so you saw a lot of the seasons come and go. It'd be sunny, it'd be snow on the outside in the vista. So it was more like in the
Wow.
sunroom where I sit thinking about the days. We can do this, we did that. What's in the sunroom? Old planters that are just hanging on a shelf. just kind of like an exercise of, write a song about this. And it had a nice little progression, and it was fun. It wasn't a great song, but it was a good song.
So I'm curious. So you have your first. This timeline is fascinating to me, and I have more questions. So you've got that Yamaha, and then you said it was '84
I think it was
that you
about
got the
84.
Taylor, and
Yeah,
they were not even 10 years old at that point.
that's
Taylor,
that's right. They were in the late '70s, mid late '70s.
and so this was. Do you still have that Taylor?
I do
Yeah.
actually. I have it in my living room,
Okay.
and that's the guitar. It's my go-to guitar that I keep out,
Uh
and
huh.
as an inspiration, I picked that up, and I will work. I've written a lot of songs on the Taylor. I still have that. Yeah,
And so you were working at TI at the time when you got that Taylor?
that's right.
Okay. So how much time from so that was 84, and then when did you write the song The Sunroom?
2017, 2018,
How many so okay.
38, 30, well, 40, 43 years.
That's
So
just
I'm too young to quit.
so here's a theory I have is that I because and I'm curious to know if you're comfortable sharing what you did at TI because you I remember when I talked to you, you said, "Okay, what do you need from me? What time do I need to be?" And you have this very, I don't know if laid back, methodical sound makes any sense, but you have this way, this very easygoing way of, uh, like it's. I have this feeling like you're always prepared. Like if there is an emergency happening, that I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if there was an emergency happening, you would have like an oh shit bag that would have everything that we might need in an emergency. Is that am I getting the right?
I got a lot of things in that bag, but not everything. uh, it's funny that you picked up on that. I have an engineering background,
Uh-huh.
so I think I have a little bit of that organization structure.
Uh-huh.
And so that might transpose through a lot of different parts of your life if it's coordination of, what do we do? Think the logistics through. Yeah. But, trying to be chill. I'm pretty chill, I think.
Well, that's I think it's such a cool combination because I think that's because in an emergency, I think you want to be with somebody who's chill, but who's also super prepared, right?
Hmm.
And I think what's so interesting when you were explaining "Riding on the Wind," when you were explaining how you wrote it, and when you were explaining the double capo system that you're using,
Hmm.
it was almost this. I almost felt like I was reading like the schematics, and then the way you describe the song, and then when you hear the song is it feels so organic. So that's why for me it's very I'm fascinated by your whole process of writing, and I think it's so badass that you wrote the Sunroom. You said you were 60.
Yeah.
Uh huh. That I have this feeling that you the image that I'm getting in my mind right now. I used to love to go to the library. I met my wife in the library in my hometown. Is I used to love going to the card catalog like that.
The Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah. So like, it was just like you could find anything. It was all there. I have this image that I'm getting that image in my mind because I feel you have this truckload of songs that have been compiling that almost like you have a card catalog of these songs that you've been that led from when you got that first Yamaha to where then you got the Taylor in '84, and then when you wrote that song alongside of your son.
Hmm.
Um, is that right? Does that sound logical?
I didn't have a lot of things at that time. That was just starting out, and I just was trying to ape and do a lot of covers of people. But then you get to a certain age in life, at least for me,
Uh-huh.
it's like, well, I got to do something that's creative. I mean, because I think most people they would say if you eat well and you exercise, but if you have some creative output, if it's
Uh-huh.
quilting, playing guitar, whatever it is, there's that outlet. And then I think the creativity, I think had that little bit of that left side brain for sure. growing up, and it just opened up once I started going into the flow. It just kind of possibilities just opened up, and I just since turning 60, I'd say I definitely have ideas and things that are out there, title wise, lyrics, some ideas of lyrics, doing some voice memos on my cell phone and capturing some groove. Always trying to worksmith that together. So that's more of the orchestration of it. But that's definitely where I'm at this point in time.
I love that term that you used of worksmith. You know, I meet a lot of people, um, and I've met a lot of people over the years who have they love to say things like, "Well, that train is past," or "It's too late to XYZ." Um, and I'm curious, what if somebody's listening right now and maybe they're on the cusp of turning 60, or maybe they've already turned 60, but they have that inkling to do something creative, but they're getting noise, they're getting all this static that's a fool's errand. If you could talk to that person, what kind of advice would you offer to them?
No, it's just never too late. If you want to do something, you gotta live it, man. It's like, what are you waiting for? Last regrets. It's always easy to make an excuse, from my perspective, not to do something. If it's making a trip on vacation somewhere, or doing, picking up and learning how to play guitar, or writing poetry, or painting, picking up collage or something. I mean, there's never, just do it. There's always a reason not to do it. And you're just much more enriched, I think, by life when you have so many different types of experiences and you get that creative juices flowing in your brain. And that's just like a drug. And I think that just makes you keep going. And that's kind of where I hope to be, continuing in that vein. So I would tell that person, don't wait, just get on.
Hmm. I think that's fantastic and super sound and lived advice. Can you tell me, how was the Sunroom the first song that you ever performed live?
Yes. Well, first original, yes.
Uh huh. So tell me about the very first time that you uh when you found, how did you find that coffee shop that had the open mic?
I was looking for
Uh-huh.
something,
Okay.
and I had heard,
Hmm.
it might have been online, that I might have looked at open mics near me or something,
Uh-huh.
and I saw one there. It was like on a Thursday night, and it was close by, and yeah, so it was like a 10-minute ride, and it was a no brainer.
Okay, this is and I'm curious if your career has any parallels, because again, this is this like it almost like kind of like a Bob's your uncle kind of vibe. Like that's like, well, it's a no-brainer. I think most people might be terrified. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's always cool to watch you on stage because I'm like, this guy is fearless. Like I watch you walk on and it's like there's a um you lift everybody up in the room with your energy, and it's this it's like this your songs are so real, and they come from such a real place that it always it changes the vibe, and there's this cool pride in your songs where it's like you now it's all making sense to me, because it's like you're presenting all the stuff that you've worksmith, like this is this art that you've created. Please walk me through from driving there to what the sign up was like, to the songs you played, the people you met, and how that all went. I'm so curious to hear your
On the
perspective
first
about
open
this.
mic,
Yeah, yeah.
terrified. You didn't. I'd never played in front of people. And your fingers lock up. They're not as loose as they were in the living room. All that stuff. But
Right,
you got
right,
to
right.
build your chops up. And
Uh-huh.
but I was at that point in time. What am I waiting for? I'm ready to do it. Why not? And I had some songs, two or three songs. I think you got three songs.
Uh-huh.
So I had three covers, and when my first time, I didn't play any original until a little after that. And so I went in the back. There was a sign up. No, it was a sign up sheet in the front, and it was a coffee house owned by this gentleman named Frank and his wife, and it was longer than wider, and it had tables and a stage in the front. When you first come in, there's tables, but in the back where he had like this big coffee um, roaster, and that he was selling large volumes to commercial. There was an area where he let us set up our guitars, and it was like a little communal thing in the back by the bathroom. Yeah. And that's how I met a lot of people, and they were very welcoming. And I ran into somebody who was an old friend of mine from 20 years prior. My wife and I had known Barry, and he was there. So that was a nice softening, spot. And and then then you get nervous and you play and you screw things up and you say, oh, I'm going to try something different next week. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I kind of got hooked in just learning, to me, how to get my chops. And again, this is all covers. It's not anything that many musicians listening would probably agree. That's kind of the way it probably rolled for them. And but it was that, and it was like a 7 to 9 thing. And you'd talk after, and made some really good friends over the years. A lot of good friends.
What covers did you do that night?
Oh, that night I have no idea. It would probably have been Bertha by Grateful Dead. It might have been an REM song or something like that.
So if you can walk me through playing those cover songs in that, what was the name of that cafe?
Grover's Mills Coffee House.
Okay, right, okay. Walk me through from there to how then did you come to find the New World Deli open mic?
Okay, so that was in New Jersey, and then so I did that from 18 to right before COVID, and then we had moved in May of 21 here. So I did some other open mics on and off when I was living by Asbury Park for a while in the winter before we moved to Austin in May of 21. And so then that was kind of coming on the other side of COVID. At least people had shots at the time, right? The first 2 shots were in, people opening up a little bit. Grover's Mill, I'm sorry, New World Deli was open, and I was open to seeing what was out there. And because I had done that, and I popped in one open mic night at New World Deli it's got to be like June of 21 or something, right in the COVID phase. And Waylon Nash was there with the sound, and I can't remember the gentleman's name who was hosting it, but not too many people there. But I got there and played and made some nice friends there, and so that was just my entree. It's only about 1.5 miles from where I live, we live. So
okay, got it.
It's not that far away, so it's kind of the local Cheers place,
So I'm curious, since you started playing in New Jersey at the Grover's Corner Cafe, how many people have either commented or taken you aside or inquired about Jack Pinto recorded music?
I've had people say, do you have any, where can I listen to your stuff, or do you have a recording? And I say, I don't, and so one of the gentlemen, Wade, who was a player there at Grover's Mills, had his own recording studio, and so I recorded a song with him that actually came out pretty well, but that kind of ran its course. I didn't continue. I had maybe 2 or 3 other songs that probably were something that was worth recording at that time. And my other friend Carl would say, you got an extended thing now. You got 5 songs. You can just get that out, and that kind of a coaxing or encouragement, I would say, which I unfortunately haven't at this point in time taken advantage of.
So can you tell me again? I think you mentioned it earlier. How did that whole process come about as far as recording?
Karen, my wife Karen, got a holiday gift where she spent X dollars, a gift certificate to Cherry, I think it was called Cherry Blossom Recording Studios.
That's so cool.
And for one song. And my friend Wade had a nice studio. He still does, I'm sure, down in his basement. Had it, soundproofed, and he had an extra room in the back with glass,
Uh-huh.
and he has a really nice tenor voice and a good guitar player, and he did harmonies, and we cut it in. And his brother-in-law was a good drummer. He played out places, and I pay an extra $50 for him to come in,
Uh-huh.
play, do the fills, and write the song. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun, actually. I enjoyed that.
How was the gift given to you? And what was your reaction like when Karen gave it to you?
I didn't expect it. It was
Uh-huh.
I thought it was a great creative idea as a gift.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Oh, I guess that means I should get this recorded." I mean, I know the person who's, going to be involved in it. He knows my
Yeah.
music, so he
Yeah.
can work with me, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of the way that rolled.
So this is very interesting. So how did you feel when you got to the studio? Um, I imagine you'd prepped the song.
Hmm.
Walk me through what was that like for you? What was it? Because and the reason I'm asking, and the reason why I'd love for you to share, is that I want people to hear your experience so they can say, "Oh, I that's something I can do as well." And I'd love to hear what your POV was.
Yeah. Okay. So, the song I wrote, called "Living in the Moment," was what was recorded,
Uh-huh.
and again, some other spiritual thing or a timeless bound, living in the moment for timelessness. Um, I had played it out a lot, so Wade, as one person, knew that song, and I had it down fairly well. And so that would be the song to do for the coupon for one free song. And came in there and did it pretty cold. I mean, put me right in, and we got I didn't know what to expect. And Wade's like, "Okay, well, you go in there, set me up, you know, perfectly with the guitar, mic right next to the guitar, and was sealed off." And I just played that song right through,
Uh-huh.
and I think I actually sang it at the same time.
Really?
Yeah, because
Huh.
I'm trying to think now. Because I think originally it was like, well, just play it in your mind and just think it while you're playing, and I just couldn't feel that, and he had the click track on. I never
Uh-huh.
played with that,
Okay.
so it was, I had to turn it down, something where I was comfortable with.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do think, actually, in hindsight, I think I actually recorded the voice and the guitar at the same time, and that was two takes maybe. And then, we go through it, and there might be a little pitchy thing on the voice there. So we would like cut and paste a little bit there,
Uh-huh.
kind of, polish it off a little bit. And then we would overlay, we overlaid we came up with ideas of, well, this is where a good harmony would go in the chorus. I can do this. I'll do the oohs here. And he had ideas, and overdub that and put that in and send it back to me. And I said, "Oh, that's great." And then I think he played the bass. He had a bass, and he did the bass runs, and that sounded good. And then,
Uh-huh.
so I kind of dug it. It was like very interesting. I felt like a grown up, like I felt like I was watching classic albums on on Amazon
That's
Prime
so
or something.
cool. There's something very Roger Edmondson was on the podcast, and he's taught me about this concept of cosmonicity, his spin on synchronicity, which I think is very brilliant. And I think what's so interesting is that the title of the song, "Living in the Moment," when I hear you tell that, it was like it felt like you turned. What's a good way to put that? It's kind of like you just went with the flow. It sounds like you'd never done that before, but you knew, like, no, I need to have the click a little bit lower to feel comfortable.
Hmm.
That to me is blowing my mind that in two takes you did it, playing and singing at the same time. If your first time ever in a studio,
Yeah.
that's
Well, I
bonkers.
think I was very comfortable with the setup and my friend.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I had practiced the heck out of it and just played it, and it just felt right when I did it. And we did a second take, and then that was it. I think we pretty much kept mostly everything from instrumentally from the first take,
Uh-huh.
and I think we changed some things around a little bit with the vocals maybe, and with the second into the first, or however he did it.
Could you play that song for us?
No, you know what? I would love to, but
Uh-huh.
I'm changing it up right now.
Got it. Okay.
I would love to play that if I was comfortable, but
Uh-huh.
the way I had written it and the chord progressions,
Yeah.
I just don't dig it as much as I'm actually changing that to a different sound. I kind of think of those songs as maybe like your children, you bring them out every once in a while and dust them off and, you know, clean them up and
Uh-huh.
change them around a little bit. It's like a breathing, it's a breathing entity.
Yeah.
But if I'd probably rather not play that right now because I'll probably flub it a little bit.
Well, that ties into what you were talking about before, about how you were saying that your songs, as far as you enjoy them being these living, breathing
Hmm.
things, and how they change, and how they you might want to tweak something or change something along the line. So I respect that.
Yeah.
What is this is I think you have this great. I want you're like this methodical vibe coach, and I'd love for you to, if somebody's like, "Hey, I just got a gift certificate to go to a studio, but I'm terrified out of my mind." What's something you could share with them to encourage them to live in the moment and go ahead and do that?
Um, it's a personal choice people make. You can only suggest or offer up your experiences and see if they can understand that and say, I can see myself in that position or not. Um, I would say, what are you waiting for? Why not? I mean, what harm can it do? And I would imagine in many of these studios, people are very professional and they make you comfortable, and that's what the person will expect. And otherwise, it's not going to be right for the musician. It's not going to feel the right energy. And I would say, give it a shot. How to choose a production group or a studio. I don't know. I can't really comment on that because I haven't been to many or tested many out, but I'm sure many of them and all of them, for the most part, are very welcoming and get you where you want to go. So I would tell that person, that's great. That's a great opportunity to learn and grow.
Uh-huh. Okay. I have a new section of the podcast where I have approached somebody else and they have a question for you. So this question actually comes from Roger Edmondson. And the question that he wanted to ask you was, what had the biggest influence over your musical direction? Your adolescence, college, career, or family?
Well, Roger, that's a very thoughtful question. uh, that's definitely something you think about. Um, Certainly wouldn't be the career. That's just a journey to financially get to a spot. In my mind, I don't live to work, or never really did. Um, uh, Work to live, rather. Family, and what was the third one?
What had the biggest influence on over your musical direction? Your
Adolescence.
adolescence, college, career, or family?
I would probably say adolescence then,
Uh-huh.
if, out of those four. Because maybe it's just because as you get older, you have a lot more adolescent or older, a lot of memories of things because you've had more life experience. And you say, "Oh, I remember when I was younger, going through this or going through that, um, how I felt." So, and I think it's a building block on how you in your life live and grow, right? So you may have some experiences and you're only built on those, and you get new experiences. So I think adolescence is your total, for me anyway, is a total build out of that. So I would say probably thinking about where I came from, how I felt in certain situations socially or whatever. I would say that's probably the one of that out of those four. I would say that's probably the one I would get most experience and influences from.
Have a lot of people from your past that were, say, in your adolescence, or who are the people in your family or your friend circle that have heard your music?
Oh, well, certainly family.
Yeah.
Uh, um, some friends, but you don't want to be that guy bringing out the guitar. You don't want to be that one sitting at the campfire, kumbaya. So, But there are people, yeah, or you play guitar with somebody, and you come over to somebody's house and play a little bit. So I would say certainly family, some friends, but I don't try to put it on anybody. Sometimes I get asked to play in a social situation, and if there's a guitar there, you have a couple of songs you can play. I don't know if I answered that question the way you were looking at it, but
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I'm just curious what. So I'm also what happened uh to the recording of Living in the Moment? Where is that?
I have it. Well, it's probably way that Cherry, the Cherry Blossom studio has it. I'm sure, but
Uh-huh.
I have an MPG of it, for sure. And it sounded very good,
Uh-huh.
and it was much more countryfied than I kind of would like to play it now.
Really?
Just doom doodle doom doodle doom, and it was.
Okay.
And I'm trying to change the
Okay, got it. Got
tempo
it. Okay.
and maybe a different sound to it, but I still have it.
Where were you, or and how did you first when they finished it, when it was done, where did you listen to it, and what did that feel like?
It felt great,
Uh-huh.
and I would. Yeah, I probably listened to it on my Mac or something, had some kind of speakers.
Uh-huh.
And, and I think I sent it out to my son, Chad, and my family, and say, hey, what do you think? My cousin Joe's a musician. I
Okay.
sent it to him. He loved it. He's like, I'm going to put a he's a keyboard player.
Yeah.
He's a Hammond B kind of guy. And, he wanted to, do a layer on it and send it around, but we just never got the momentum to do that. But I would send it out to people like that, family,
Uh-huh.
friends.
What did your son, what was his reaction?
I thought it was very good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. He's got his own studio. He lives he and his bride live in Peterborough, Ontario,
Okay.
and they have their own little band, Hazy Smiles, and they've got their
Really?
sound, and they got a nice studio where they live. So, yeah, I recorded some things for him to put down
Uh-huh.
stuff on top of, but he never seems to find time to flesh it out. So I could
Uh-huh.
have two or three other songs that I could have said to you right now that I've had recorded, but they've kind of taken a backseat to their music.
Well, so who taught how did he get into music?
Chad's a very talented musician. He's always had interest in music, with being a little kid, having some music that we'd have around on CDs and stuff for sure.
Uh-huh.
Fourth grade studio band. I mean, high school, the grammar school band.
Yeah.
Guitar. He took guitar lessons at like seventh grade, and
Uh-huh.
so we certainly paid for a lot of trumpet lessons, guitar lessons. Then he went in high school. He was at the Princeton High School Studio Band, which is at the time it was a very prestigious band. It was a touring studio band that just did standards, and they're very sight read, and he did upright bass. So he's a very talented musician, and much better than I have ever could be or aspire to be.
Do you guys ever jam?
All the time. Yeah, they came to visit us last month, and yeah, we certainly spent time playing together.
That's what I'm curious.
Which is a great bond. Which,
Uh-huh.
if for anybody who has a child, taking the time and experience and sharing the love of music is just phenomenal. So yeah, that's a special time.
Is what guitars? I'm curious. What guitars does he play?
He's got a Strat.
Uh-huh.
He's got a Martin guitar, acoustic, electric. I think he's got a Jazz Master. Um, but he's a lot of electrical guitar, and Dominique, my daughter-in-law, has got a bass,
Okay.
and so they do their own things. But he's just a talented musician. He had lessons,
Uh-huh.
um, and for maybe 4 or 5 years, and just took off on his own. He just had the love for it and the passion, and just has the ear, the sound, and
Uh-huh.
just can play anything, and he's fun to play with.
Did he learn on your Taylor?
Great question. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
until he got his own guitar, I
Uh-huh.
think we got him some electric, Epiphone or something at one time that he had in seventh and eighth grade. So
That's
he
so
played more
cool.
of that than he did probably the Taylor. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
I would think so.
And his the band that he has with his bride is Hazy Smiles.
Hazy Smiles.
And where can is that just on
Spotify.
Spotify?
Yeah,
Hazy Smiles.
Hazey Smiles.
And Dominique plays bass
Yeah,
on that
and sings.
and sings.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I want to make sure I give them a shout out. What does Chad think about your music and the fact? And I'm not trying to be like cute and like but I'm just curious. I think your song, your music is freaking great.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
curious what he thinks about the fact that you have nothing on available to stream or on Bandcamp or something like that.
I think he's nonplussed about that. Maybe, or he hasn't mentioned it to me. Like, oh, Dad, you should be putting your stuff up there. He hasn't nudged me. I gave him 2 or 3 songs like did, and he was supposed to flesh them out, but hasn't gotten a chance to. So I guess it's kind of status quo.
I just
But I do send him when
Yeah.
I do recordings of like voice recordings and
Sure.
send him lyrics and stuff, and
Yeah.
he digs some of those for sure. So he hears it,
Okay, I think that's cool.
just not professionally.
That's very cool. If I'd love it if you could before we wrap this up, if you could share your thoughts on, say there's somebody who's maybe they're in a cubicle, or they feel that they're stuck on a treadmill, or they're in a situation where it's like they feel this calling to do that, but they feel it's too late, and say maybe they're 20 or they're 30. I find your journey and your path so I find it so cool how you went at your own velocity, and that was your journey. The way you referred to your what your career was, and how you integrated that with your life. I just find it very interesting how it seems like everything is happening when it was supposed to happen.
I think so.
So could you that's the vibe that I'm getting from your story. I'd love, in your own words, if you could, to all of our listeners, share your 2 cents on your journey, and if they're ready to, if they've got a guitar that's like collecting dust with a busted action, I'd love for you to talk to them for a second.
Well, I would probably tell them that we're all been down that road before. You can never find time to do all the things you love to do because there's only a certain amount of time. I'd also think about it as, from my perspective, raising a family, and you kind of toss out your personal life for a long time when you're driving kids to sports and doing scout camps or whatever you're doing, and then you work your butt off, and then you get home, and am I going to pull that guitar out? Am I just going to sit and flip the TV on and just watch something and chill? And it's not. I get it. It's not a you have to want to find time to do it, but the time only presents itself when it's right. You can't force it. I think you should be cognizant of where you might want to get to, knowing that maybe when you do find some spare time to do it, and don't just ignore it. But over time, when you're ready, you'll find more and more time, and then I think the juices will come out, and you'll just start to get that creative flow. Or I hear people that try to get up at 6 a.m. before going to work and writing. God bless you, do that, man. But you got to really be committed to do that. It's like saying I know what I should be doing. I should be losing weight and I should be exercising. But doing it is getting up and jogging at 6 or writing is not the easiest thing. So, but keep that thought germinated. I would tell them, when the time is right, you'll find it.
Can you tell us, because I just got an invite today on the Facebook. Tell us about your song swap that's happening on the 22nd at the New World Deli. How did that happen, and how do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm excited about it. I I don't make a lot of great efforts to work it like many people do, and make your contacts and who sets up, these residencies and such. But a friend of mine, Danny Fast Fingers, is one of those gentlemen who he gets himself out there, and so he had a 2-hour set up on Sunday the 22nd. Sunday the 22nd or Saturday? I think it's Saturday the 22nd.
Yeah.
From like 2 to 4 at the New Deli. And asked me if I would like to song swap with him. We're just going to do originals. And we're probably, he said, the last time I did that, I got 11 or 12 songs out. So yeah, I've got 11 or 12 songs I'll play. So I'm excited about that because my wife Karen has been sending out the little mini poster that Danny had put together with us on there, and marketing and Facebook. And, I'm excited about that. It's almost like a showcase of, people, because it's such a great space, as you know. It's a listening kind of an audience, and it's just got a nice sound there. And so I kind of like that. If anybody's interested in hearing what I can play, the heck, that excites me, because I don't really go so much for the ego, but it is nice to be able to do that.
Do you have your songs ready? That you know which ones you're going to play?
Well, I have a little system where I have a note on my iPhone, and I've got all my songs that I've got that I feel I can play out in major or minor, so I can scroll through them and see or covers what I'd like to do, and I've kind of ticked off like about a dozen of them so far, and I say so let me work through those. So I'm doing those out a little bit at open mics and things of that nature until then.
How many original songs do you have? This sounds like a fascinating storage system. How many songs do you have in there?
Well, I've got some songs that are not on my phone that I just can't. Like you said, can I play "Living in the Moment"?
Yeah,
it's not on there. Actually, it's on there, but I wouldn't play it the way it is.
Right.
But for the songs that I would say, I can play these songs. That's a great question. So I have it like, here's all the majors. And I have it. I started arranging it by.
Describe. So, well, hold on. What is? Okay.
So I started arranging it by.
He just passed me the phone. This is okay. I'm very curious to know what you did at Texas Instruments. So I've never seen a note on an iPhone that's actually, it's like framed with characters. I've never seen anybody do that before. That is so cool.
That's when you're retired. You have a lot of time on your hands.
Visually, it's very easy to like orient my eyes. I'm like, oh, that's a brilliant use of the @ sign. It's caused this beautiful frame. Originals in major. Got the chords. This is.
And then originally I had them in key.
That's very cool.
The G, E, and then I have the minors further down. So to answer your question, I don't know. I probably have, I'd say 25 songs that I feel like I can play out.
Oh my gosh.
Some better than others. Some I like better than others. Some you played out and you're like, I don't feel that one anymore.
Yeah.
I just kind of try to scroll through it.
Well, I'm just putting my vote out there and my wish that I hope in the near future you record something.
Thank you.
That'd be awesome.
Well, if you know anybody, let me know.
Jack, it's been amazing to have you on the podcast. Thank you for coming by, taking time to drive out here to share your story.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I would love it if you could play us out with a song.
Sure, I can do that.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to get that set up. And remember that it's always the right time to start and that it's too late to quit. You got this.
The song is called Turtles All the Way Down. Wake up 55 before 3. Wonder what the future's holding for me. Reflect my life as I lie in bed, so the Damocles dangling over my head. Head to toe, feel it in my bones, peel back my skin, feel it touch my soul. And I wonder, are my feet still perfect on the ground? If not, it's turtles, turtles all the way down, turtles all the way down. Where the past and the future collide, way down over on the other side. Embers burn and spirits cry free, fired by the fuel of humanity. Hearts angry and coarse to the touch, fill them with love. Doesn't take that much. And I wonder, are my feet still firmly on the ground? If not, it's turtles, turtles all the way down, turtles all the way down. What we see in others reflects ourselves. Your perception of you's just reflection from me. The bell of truth will set you free. The images of lights pass across the room. The kaleidoscope of colors all come into view. Now tilt your head, you'll see life anew. Possibility for me and you. You said your love be vibrated by gravity brings love down to the sky. And I wonder, are my feet still firmly on the ground? If not, it's turtles, turtles all the way down. And I wonder, are my feet still firmly on the ground? If not, it's turtles, turtles all the way down, turtles all the way down, turtles all the way down.